നമസ്കാരം, ഞാൻ മാധവി. IFTS 2024 ഭാഗമായി നാടകപ്രവർത്തകരുമായും പെഡഗോഗ്സുമായും നടത്തുന്ന ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂവിൽ ഇന്ന് നമ്മളോടൊപ്പം ഉള്ളത് ശ്രീമതി കൃഷ്ണ Rao. ഇന്ത്യയിലെ തന്നെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട നാടകപ്രവർത്തകരുമായി മികച്ച അഭിനയത്തിലൂടെയും നമ്മുടെ നാടക ചരിത്രത്തോടൊപ്പം നിൽക്കുന്ന മായനാനോട് പ്രാക്ടീസിനെ കുറിച്ചാണ്. I really like to discuss the conversation topic. I think from acting, you can start from acting. So you have kind of classical practice in Kannada, and you, in a beautiful way, you adapt it to contemporary practice. How you use the gestures and how you bring things in stage. It was very interesting. As a student of an audio. I'm really impressed with your performance style, especially your body and your style. Can you talk about this?
Yeah, I think for me, my very all-round inspiration in so many different ways comes from Kathak. In fact, even I myself am not aware the ways in which even today, after 35 years, it seems to enter. I am not aware. There has only been one production, Ravanama, which I brought to it for, where I told myself, in the performance-making process, I'm going to say, Kathakali, please enter.
Yeah.
And not just Kathakali, but because the character was Ravana. And for me, when I was invited to make a piece on some character from Ramayana, I was attracted to Ravana only because of how Ravana is in Kathakali. Not so much the Ravana in Ramayana, but the Ravana in Kathakali. And for me, when I have practiced Kathakali, it's a joke in the class. Ashan will always say, okay. And then he knows maybe today it's Ulgaham. So Ulgaham was my most favorite. And it is one, there's everything in Ulgaham. The character is standing on stage for 1.5 hours. It's a solo performance in a classical tradition. And that solo performer the character is thinking to himself. ഇത് എങ്ങനെയാണ് പറ്റിയത്, പിന്നെ അത് കുറച്ച് ആൻസർ ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് അല്ല പക്ഷെ അത് എങ്ങനെയാണ് പറ്റിയത്. And so this Nirvahanam, which is taken from Kuriyattu. So that's the only time when I have said, okay, Kathakali, please enter. Otherwise, people tell me, my friends tell me that when you bring your body on stage, we can see the stamp of Kathakali. I personally don't want to be consciously aware of, I'm not using techniques of Kathakali. But I do know, ഈ കാലസാധകം കുട്ടിക്കാലത്ത് കുറേ ചെയ്ത് ചെയ്ത് ഒരു കാലിന് ഇങ്ങനെ മേപ്പട്ടേക്ക് കയറി വരുന്ന ഒരു എനർജി, ഒരു ശക്തി, ഒരു and it's something that you can control. And ഇത് കയറി വരുമ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ ട്രെയിനിങ് എന്താ വെച്ചാൽ you are dancing there but you are acting here. So the whole body is complete in itself. And a character doesn't simply play a character. The audience sees the world through the eyes of the character. Everything of the world the audience sees through the character. So you become more than a character. Now when you're trained like this, the imagination of the child changes. ഞാൻ 7 വയസ്സായിരുന്നു ഡൽഹിയിൽ when we set up the international center. So if you're asking me how has Kathakali influenced me as a contemporary performance maker, I'd say first the imagination. And the imagination impacts in many ways. In Kathakali, we create the mudra, the meaning out there. മല കാണിക്കുന്ന വെച്ചാൽ അവിടെയാണ്, ഈ സ്പേസിലാണ്. ദ ഓഡിയൻസ് ഇസ് ദെയർ ആൻഡ് യു ആർ ഹിയർ. ആ സ്പേസ്, ആ ഇടയിൽ ഇരിക്കുന്ന സ്പേസിലാണ് യു ആർ ക്രിയേറ്റിംഗ് വേർഡ്സ് ആൻഡ് മീനിങ്. യു ആർ നോട്ട് ഫസ്റ്റ് തിങ്കിങ് ഓഫ് ഫീലിംഗ് ആൻഡ് ദെൻ സ്പീക്കിംഗ്, വിച്ച് ഇസ് വാട്ട് ഹാപ്പൻസ് ഇൻ യൂഷ്വൽ തിയേറ്റർ. ദിസ് സീംസ് ടു ബി ദി ഓപ്പോസിറ്റ്. അവിടെയാണ്. സോ ദിസ് ട്രെയിനിങ് ഓഫ് ഓൾവേസ് ബീങ് in space, charging the space, even before I'll have a cup of tea, I'll do some yoga, I'll play some music, maybe it's contemporary music, but when I step onto this space, because of long Kathakali training, I'm already, it's not awareness of this space, I feel I can energize it because Kathakali has given it. You know, it becomes like second nature. And well, another thing that I think I have got from Kathakali is that everything is a journey. ചില നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഞാനിപ്പോൾ എത്ര വേഗത്തിലാണ് സംസാരിക്കുന്നത്. But when we make words in Kathakali, it's linked with the character. ഉത്ഭവത്തിൽ, you know, it's a slow beat. ഈ ഞാൻ എന്ന് പറയാൻ, you know, in that whole journey of the I, അതിൽ എന്തൊക്കെയൊക്കെയാ വരേണ്ടതെന്ന് it's up to the actor. You know, it's up to your how full you are. That's why they say in Kathakali, the older you get, the better. Because ഞാനിപ്പോൾ Kathakali കളിക്കുന്നില്ല, so I have not. But so me, a single word is over 10 beats. അത്രയും നേരം ഞാൻ. This affects the imagination. So when I, as a contemporary performer, go into space, there's always a rhythm playing inside, and there's a rhythm of the space. Because Kathakali, ഒരു ചെണ്ടയുണ്ട്, ഒരു മദളുണ്ട്, ഒരു ഇതുണ്ട്, പിന്നെ ആശാൻ അവിടെ താളം വയ്ക്കണോ, so many rhythms. And ഉള്ളിൽ നമ്മളൊരു താളം വയ്ക്കണം, ആ മുദ്രയ്ക്കൊരു. So that again becomes second nature. You go into space and അങ്ങനെ ഒരു, you know, you get into that practice, you know. Then the other thing about Kathakali is that it's always rhythm driven, it's always music driven. So music is an actor. Is an actor. And so even today I'm very frightened of going into empty space in a silence. Today the improvisation. But now I've told myself, for an actor it's very important to have challenges. You know, so my challenge is in this silence, level improvisation. You know, പക്ഷേ അതിൽ ഉള്ളിലൊരു എന്തെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടാവും. That sets off. I've got that from Kathakali. And this whole idea that we have no separation between dance and theatre, and even my sense of religion. I'm not a religious person. For me, when from the age of 7, your first version is Krishna, Geetavadesham. അതിങ്ങനെ ആശാൻ അവിടെ കൊട്ടും, എന്നിട്ട് നമ്മളിങ്ങനെ മുദ്രകളോ, ആശാൻ പറയും ചൊടി ഇല്ലല്ലോ, and then you do the chodi. Chodi comes easily to a child. So you grow with the gods, you know, and so your cosmos really becomes very big, very big. Today I don't pray to a god, but the universe is very big because mythology, there's no end to it. It's alien. So these are some of the things that, and now even as a teacher, I have to tell myself, how do I take the principles of Kathakali and go to a contemporary performer like in a drama school, Thrissur, they want to be contemporary performers. How do I break down Kathakali into some principles, and how do I then remake it into a technique to trigger the actor? What are the exercises that a contemporary actor must do? So this is the imagination that one goes into performance making. And Kathakali has given me the confidence that I must go into a space without any theme. Chala, the mind is not blank. The body is full. It's full of a breath that converts. This is what Kathakali does. It converts that breath into an energy. And then you can take that energy where you want. You can take it where you want. And so I have often told myself, go into the space with no theme, no idea, and let's see what happens. It has to start between something outside and something inside and something outside. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ സ്വതവേ a lot of my shows ഞാൻ ഒരു തീം ചൂസ് ചെയ്യുക, എന്നിട്ട് അതിന് and then start improvising അങ്ങനെയല്ല. Just it's not nothingness, it's a chargeness. And then you improvise for many days, and I have a camera like this. The camera is like my not like a director, but it makes me
Custodian? Custodian?
well, no. It's much more than an audience. It keeps the tension of me as a performer. That tension between me and it is what is then the next step towards creativity. It holds that tension. Of course, in my mind, I know that it is also documenting what I'm doing. And then I'm absolutely free. I don't have to think, "Dokka orma vekkana." Adella recording undu. So I can be free and I can do things, and I'm very used to being with the camera now. But then at some point, to talk about performance making, I got curious about what is it to bring another camera inside the space. And that other camera will not be making some clips from outside. Ee marangala, chedikala and something, and bring that there, and I'm then looking at it, and then I get inspired as an actor, and then I do something. No, that's not my way. The camera is there. I love, this is another thing for me, which I think I've got from Kathakali. What is the stance of Kathakali? When you stand there in the space, Asham parayum, kannu nallonu thorkku, vayu kodukku nu parayum, vayu kodukku nu parayumbo, actually you are in a state of amazement. The actor is in some kind of state of amazement. I think when I'm making contemporary performances, because it has become a habit. ഞാനിപ്പോ improvise ചെയ്യാൻ പോയാൽ I'm not going to open my eyes like that, but I know what it is to be in a state of surprise. ഇവിടെ എന്താ നടക്കാൻ പോണ, എന്താ, what will be that first moment, ആ ഒരു anticipation which is built into that. I don't know, there is something very smart about those people. I always take myself by surprise. Something ഇന്നത്തെ improvisation അയാൾ എന്താ ചെയ്യുമ്പോഴൊന്നും എനിക്കറിയില്ല. But there's a toy there, and there's him there, and there's his sweat, and he left his sweat there. That was a big surprise for me. What is that sweat? But I'm not trying to give it meaning. I go and play with it. In play, you see, this is like play. Idana Kathakali. You're playing in the space. And then, but Kathakali is great. You see why Kathakali is great is that ഞങ്ങൾ മുദ്ര പിടിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഞങ്ങൾ മുദ്രനെ നോക്കില്ല, ഞങ്ങൾ അവിടെ ദൂരെ നോക്കണം. It's an amazing idea of space. So as a performer, I am always larger than myself. In fact, I'm not a person. When I go to improvise, I'm just a mass of something moving in space.
That's so powerful.
It's powerful, it's just varying energies, but a moving mass. That moving mass, where is it going to get inspiration? That first moment, I don't know, I'm doing this, but what is it going to become? Now, Kathakali has told me, don't look at your hands. So then what has happened is that they have an existence of their own. They become like another actor. Kathakaliile mudragalundi. Nammal contemporary cheyumbo onnuilla. Nammal verude we are letting it go. And if the eyes are somewhere else, these also start getting inspired. Those are getting inspired separately. Feet move separately. And all together, you are getting inspired by your own body.
You're talking about breathing. And all classical training have that kind of technique. So how can you teach this? Breathing, emotion, and I read in my teachers, every emotion have a color. So when I read that, it's just interesting. From the beginning I said this is useless. Then somehow after I'm practicing different kinds of performance, acting, then somehow this is something really interesting. So how it's a very interesting process. Emotion as a color and emotion and breathing.
You see now, when you want to step into the contemporary field, space. There's some things you leave behind. You're bringing your body. You're not bringing ideas about Kathak. Color coding, Ravananda, ഇവിടെ ചുവപ്പായിരിക്കും, ഇവിടെ പച്ചയായിരിക്കും. I'm not carrying any of that. I'm not carrying color. I just carry my body. I don't want to be limited by red means this. Then it won't. My improvisation will not be open enough.
It's not living.
It can be. I have learned to say that I don't know. Maybe Mooka will, if I put it there in the improvisation, I don't know how it will speak to me. You know, one day, Ravanama Indaka Vandita, I told myself, Ravana is such a big character. Huh? Why am I not being attracted to Sita? After all, I'm a woman. I'm not attracted to her. So I had to do some very, very difficult act before the improvisation. What I did was, അമ്മയോട് പറയാണ്ട് ഞാൻ നമ്മുടെ ഒരു പഴയ കാഞ്ചീപുരം സാരി, very precious to her. പക്ഷേ എൻ്റെ അമ്മ അപ്പോൾ she was quite old and she was not wearing sari. She was wearing trousers. So ഞാൻ ഈ സാരി എടുത്തിട്ട് പതുക്കെ ഇങ്ങനെ കത്തിരി കൊണ്ട് വെട്ടി. That this is outside the improvisation. But it's like in the green room, നമ്മൾ കടക്കാൻ പോകും, ചുറ്റി തുടങ്ങും. It's a preparation, you know. So something contemporary or actor can also do to prepare. So I cut up this very, it's all gold. അതിങ്ങനെ വെട്ടിയിട്ട് ഞാൻ somewhere my heart was breaking. പക്ഷേ the actor side of me, the performer side of me said you have to do it. എന്നിട്ട് ഈ ചെറിയ ചെറിയ കഷ്ണങ്ങൾ, സാരിയുടെ കഷ്ണങ്ങൾ അവിടെ സ്പേസിൽ ഇട്ടില്ല. And then I started an improvisation. So there's the camera and there are those things in there. It's a three-way tension. And then the improvisation went. And then Ravana took another. I still went to Ravana. But how Ravana approaches Sita, how this female performer approaches Ravana, who is approaching Sita, how Sita is looking at me, Dakkamari. Because of doing a very tough act. So, you know, we love the word tension in contemporary theatre. Kathakali Ashan will never talk about tension. But that's something over the years you realize. ഈ കാലിങ്ങനെ പിടിക്കുക, ഈ മുട്ട അങ്ങോട്ട് നോക്കണം, ഇതിങ്ങനെ പിടിക്കുക, ഇത് അങ്ങോട്ട് നോക്കണം, ഇത് ആശാൻ പറയും ഇവിടെ ഒന്നും ഉണ്ടാവും. It's very, നമ്മൾ ചുവപ്പൊക്കെ ചെയ്യും, പക്ഷേ this has to be very. പക്ഷെ അതേപോലെ തന്നെ ആ കൈയിൻ്റെ മുദ്ര അങ്ങനെ. So there's an energy here, but there's something else. So the whole body is divided into tension. It keeps you creatively alive. You know? So these are, yeah. So I was telling you, so the camera comes in, maybe my friend will, if I was sitting like this and he may go close into one of these leaves and he may project it. I will not look at the projection, but I can sense that something on my body has got extended and it's become very large. This impacts on my imagination. Already in Kathakali, I have a sense of scale. What is small, what is large. Nyandana, as I said, the performer in Kathakali is large. So you have this sense of scale. Now with this also, it's like an extension. But I feel like I say, what is it? We talk about Ravana. Yeah, I think we just walk. One of the video questions. It's a kind of reflection. And I would like to know how you creating text, you're writing or just improvising as an actor, and how you choose like in walking. When you said 1, 2, 3, and 12 o'clock, I want to walk. And it's after your performance, it's becoming a poetry, and it's kind of a rap that we do. And I think lots of solo performance makers are inspired from that kind of text making. So about the walk. About the walk, it's again about tension. I was asked the previous day, that please come tomorrow to JNU at midnight, December 31. And Jyoti died on December 29. We are all full, our hearts are full, and she dies in Singapore. And I have been in Delhi every day joining students who are just, they are not political students. They are just marching Rajpath all the way to Rashtrapati Bhavan Market. And they're only doing one slogan, we want justice, we want justice, we want justice. You know, they're just getting into a thing, a state like shamans. And I would join them, but I would join them at the back because they were in the. So it was like even the whole women's movement was at the back. And every day working with her. Now, when I got the call from JNU, first I said, I can't come tomorrow. I don't have a performance. No, why do you have to come? So when somebody says you have to come, that becomes you turn that into a challenge. It becomes a you translate it into a creative energy. What do I do now? And luckily there were two NSD students of mine sitting there. We were supposed to be rehearsing comedy for the next BR in January, the December 31st, 30th. So then I said, "Ab kya kare?" So they said, "Kuch banaiye." I got I said I can't rehearse the comedy. I don't feel like it. I'll do it technically with you and then after on a phone answer. And I pick up the phone and she says, "You must come tomorrow." And the boy had just told me, if you're feeling so bad about Jyoti, then why don't you just make a piece about her? After on a phone answer. Then you think there must be some spirit. And then it's like I said, I'm not religious, but then I feel if I get some sign, then I feel like I must pick it up. I told myself, YouTube in the moon or tunes, I will just download. If they work, okay, I'll improvise. And there was no time to set up a camera. I put out my laptop, and then the first thing that I downloaded, it didn't move. Second one I downloaded, and that beat. And Arianda then the leg went up and the first word came. Now the thing is that even I didn't know where it was coming from. But I know, it's a bit like what one of the speakers said today, that there's you and then there's a spiral and a spiral and a spiral, and the spiral is going out onto the streets, and you have been walking every day. So that word walk. When the word walk came, I said, so to the next one. I don't know. I should, I could, I would, I don't know. And then the next thing, not 7, not 8, not 9, 12 midnight, I want to walk. After I came, I have got very excited myself. So then, this is a process again that Kathakali has given me, that you can enter the space and excite yourself. ഏത് പദം തുടങ്ങിയാലും there is a sense of anticipation, ഒരു നോട്ടം, ഒരു കാല അടിക്കുക. All this is slow excitement. But you learn to give it, what's the word, not meaning, but great, it's precious. So then I wouldn't be at 8, 9, 12, at 12 midnight I want to walk. I still don't know what the next words are.
And some of other play, you experiment with different minimalistic lighting. Some 2-3 lights, and you're moving with them. I forgot the name of the performance.
Well, one was Ravanama, where I wanted
with
on stands or on the table.
Yes.
Because I think there's always, you want to play, I have no co-actors.
Yeah.
So then light becomes like, oh, can I pick up this light and play with it and light myself? It becomes like a co-actor. Or a light on a stand.
Torch.
Do I go close to a torch? A torch sometimes is also for the camera. So they become co-actors for me. I'm still looking for a lighting person who will create light out of found objects, and suddenly I'm being Russian right too. I devised a show with some people in London, and Abhilash was a student in RADA. Abhilash said, I'll also join you. He was just finishing his RADA course. I said, come on, Abhilash. So Abhilash every day in London would play with different sorts of light sources. So then part of the theme of the show came from these different light things and how I was improvising with them, you know. So for me, everybody becomes a poet. The camera, the image, the sound. ഇതിന്റെ ഇടയിൽ comedy ഉണ്ട്.
Okay, please.
Comedy is another process. Comedy is a more heady process. അതിലിങ്ങനെ improvisation is not what drives me. I will sometimes think of to wear something. In the Amma Malayalam comedy കുറെ ചെയ്തിരുന്നു ഡൽഹിയിൽ. She was a big hit. പക്ഷെ അവരുടെ രീതി വേറെ ആയിരുന്നു. They had a playwright, text എഴുതും, dialogue എഴുതും. എന്നിട്ട് എൻ്റെ അമ്മ ഇങ്ങനെ കുറേ വിഡ്ഢിവേഷം കിട്ടും. When she was 65 years old, ഇങ്ങനെ രണ്ട് ഒരു പാവാട, ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു ജാക്കറ്റ്, ഇതൊക്കെ. All this sort of വേഷം. And it used to really embarrass me as a child. What is my mother doing? പക്ഷെ അതിങ്ങനെ കയറി ഇരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. So then after a point, and then in my family, all the aunts get together and they're always making fun of each other, loud Malayalam. That's very traditional. So I may look at television and some politician makes a completely ridiculous remark. That's a sentence, then I have to wear some costume, which is in tension with that. And very often in the old days it used to be a mini skirt. ഞാൻ സ്വതവേ മിനി സ്കേർട്ട് ഇടുന്ന ആളല്ല. പക്ഷെ I have to feel special. അപ്പോൾ that was one of my first costumes. മിനി സ്കേർട്ട് ഇട്ടു, ഒരു വെരി കളർഫുൾ ഇങ്ങനെ കെട്ടണ ഇതൊക്കെ ബ്ലൗസ് ഒക്കെ ഇട്ടു, തലമുടിയൊക്കെ എങ്ങനെയെങ്കിലുമൊക്കെ ഒന്ന് ചെയ്യണം. അതിന് മുകളിൽ ഒരു ഉദ്യാനം വേണം, പൂക്കളും അതൊക്കെ ആയിട്ട്. And then I'm sitting there like a വേഷം, വല്ല കിരീടൊക്കെ വെച്ച ചായല, and then you're waiting. Ab kya hoga? And then there is this sentence to work with. You know, so then that's the start of comedy. But even that has to be recorded by the camera, because others are no memory yet.
So, and about performance making, performance tool. Actually, most of the people making lots of production, but they are not imagining kind of touring. So I think you can.
I'm also one of those. I'm a very bad manager of my own shows, and I never got myself a production manager. So, but if anybody invited me, and if they said this is your venue, for me that was a challenge. Like one day somebody said, I'm inviting 7 guests to my living room. Maya, will you do walk? So I told her, I'll be sitting there, I'll have a glass of beer in my hand and I'm talking, and then I'll give you a sign, you put on the music, and then as I'm talking, I'll say, so then suddenly the rhythm has changed. They're thinking what's happening to Maya, and then some of them, they were foreigners, so they'd never seen the work. And then I slowly said, challenge. How does this personal space become a performance space? So you know, I like to go into surprising spaces. Some galleries, some really small. You see that is again Kathakali. Kathakali, we only need this much, and you're so loud. So we are ready to play anywhere.
According to the space, the performance
will change. Possibility. Like you know, in the Maximilian Bhavan, which is the German cultural center in Delhi, I made a show which for me is my favorite show. It's called Heads of Men for Walking. And it's got 2 or 3 cameras on stage. And you know, there's a projection of a cycle rickshaw. Cycle rickshaw made of cane. Usually when we do it in a space, we have the audience there. And here I have me because of this very complicated camera. And the projection of the cycle rickshaw is on some kind of screen. Now, when I went into the gallery space, we said, oh, let's try something new. So the cycle rickshaw was moving on. And of course, then you wait for that to impact on your. So you leave yourself free even in a performance. While you know what is your next move, you're looking for moments that you will improvise even during a performance.
Well, have you ever think about doing realistic, very realistic acting?
I have done the most realistic എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാല് ഇങ്ങനെ realistic വേറെ ഇല്ല. And that is when I was working with what's called theatre and education. So very briefly, that's about, and that was in England when I was working with the company. We took a real life fact. We designed one sequence for 5 minutes. We play the sequence. The children are completely so curious, and then we say, okay, what is the rest of the story? They build the story, and then they tell us, we have this character and that character, and we have to play those characters and meet them. Now, what particular story we had was of medieval, 18th century England. No upper class person was of black skin. And all the roles I was playing, all the roles they asked me to play were men, because that was the nature of the story. So, this is back to play. You get in touch with yourself, you say, okay, high school students, when I go and wear that coat, and I come and sit here, I'll be, what's the name of the character? Dr. Smith. Okay. What time? 5 in the evening you want me. Okay, I'll be sitting here. The moment I sit down, I'm Dr. Smith. They are sitting right here, the children. It has to be completely believable. Because they are children, I think they will laugh. Or they will say, hey, you didn't do that. And I'm not even British. I've never lived in England. And yet I have to make myself believable. Nothing is closer to realism than this. Of course, what the difference is that when you play a Chekhov or whatever, you have already learned your lines and it has been rehearsed. Even you are improvising in front of the students. So it's on the spur of the moment. But it has to be completely believable. When we play realism, it's a genre, it's a form, and everybody accepts this is realism. But that is also a style. Even a style this has to be believable. But idilum kodi oru art form undu. You know what I mean? So that was my very, very, very challenge.
So dance is like a physical writing. You can say dance is like a physical writing.
Said my Ashan used to say.
Acting also. So are we really writing with movies? So how you?
I don't know. I think it's many things happening. Sometimes you're making on the inside, but what comes out is something else. Then you make on the outside. Then you're in space. You're not making. You're part of space. And then out of that, you have no idea where the next moment will come from. I think it's always a shifting. All these words like acting, dance, all this is irrelevant. And for me, actually, I look at it as performance, not acting. Because for me, acting comes from when you have a script. None of my shows have I first written a script and then acted it out. Except when I did a short story by two short stories. One was Brett, The Job. There I learnt up the whole story, but I still improvised. And one was Quality Street by this Kenyan writer Chimamanda Adichie. Again, I learnt all her story. For me, a big task. I can't learn lines. I learnt it by heart, and then I improvised with it. But I'm speaking her text, but I'm doing different actions. And then there's music. Yeah.
And as a performer, as a performance maker, so what is your perspective on audience? So who is your audience? Or what is the relationship?
I think it varies. I just leave myself free. Like I said, if somebody says, now bring that show to this place, and that's your audience. For me, it's just the challenge of, okay, let's see what happens there. I don't know. Yeah. So I'm not, unless it's theatre and education, where you know you're going to play for class 7 or class 9, because it's very specific who you're making for. And actually theatre and education now, I used to work with the National School of Drama India, I was at TI. So I used to devise with them. Avarana Calicut. I'm only, I'm like the director.
And what is your new project?
Oh, the last thing I made was very, very interesting, and for me, a new direction. I was asked by the National Law University in Delhi. They have something called Project 39A, which was, they are looking at prisoners in India who have got the death sentence. Today we have at least 800 prisoners who have got death sentence, and the world doesn't know about them. But they may write letters, they may make pictures for their family. Sometimes it reaches the family, sometimes it doesn't. How to get the world interested in the stories of these, because we get the stories through the media. We don't even know if they're true. So their attempt is come closer to these prisoners. So they told me, our website and launch in a vendita, will you make a performance? Very tough. Very tough. But I looked at so many cases, and then I made a half-an-hour piece from the cases of 2 men. For me, it was a very different experience. Jnana, I'm not used to making, improvising, and creating a story. My theatre is not about, but this was about a character where I'm Rahman. Rahman in a cell that's only, 10 by 12. And I had to, but I'm not doing realism. There's music and I'm in myself. And sometimes what happens is your past production impacts on your current. So, I think the 7, 8, 9, 12 midnight, I think it came into this thing about, I said, my first line in the play is, जब मैं देर अंधेरे में बैठता हूँ अपने सेल के अंदर, तो मैं अपना सेल को नापता हूँ. Which means I measure and I try to start taking steps in the dark, and I bang into the wall. So I think numbers have stayed with us. So that was my last piece. But I'm not. Some part of me wants to make another show. Another part of me is quite happy to just be with students.
Nice talking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was more than half an hour.
30 minutes.